A genius girl and her dog walked into a luxury store and were humiliated by a rich woman. She laughed at the girl's clothes, dismissed the dog. But seconds later, something happened that left everyone in shock. What that girl did silenced the whole place, and you won't believe the ending. From the moment she was old enough to grasp objects, Lily Thompson displayed an observational ability that bordered on the extraordinary. While other children were captivated by cartoons or video games, she spent countless hours crafting contraptions from recycled materials, dismantling broken appliances, and creating simple prototypes that drew the attention of anyone who came near. Her dog, Rusty, a scruffy mutt rescued as a puppy, was her only constant companion. With him, she shared the silence of early mornings, the excitement of each new discovery, and the comfort in the face of the world's indifference around her. Both lived with her grandmother Martha in a modest house on the outskirts of Oak Ridge, a small town where appearances still dictated a person's worth. Lily's residence wasn't far from Hillcrest, the most affluent neighborhood in the region, but the two areas might as well have been separated by an ocean of silent judgments and closed doors. Lily attended Oak Ridge Public Elementary, a school that did its best despite limited resources, while the children of Hillcrest enjoyed private education with state-of-the-art facilities at Westfield Academy. Martha Thompson had raised Lily since she was 3 years old, after a tragic accident took her parents away. Martha worked double shifts as a nurse at the local hospital to provide for her granddaughter, often leaving Lily alone with her thoughts and her loyal companion. But Lily never complained. She understood sacrifice and had developed a maturity well beyond her 12 years. "Grandma, look," Lily exclaimed one evening as Martha returned home, exhaustion evident in the lines of her face. The kitchen table was covered with what appeared to be an intricate system of plastic bottles, solar panels salvaged from old calculators, and a filtering mechanism made from household materials. "I think I figured out how to purify rainwater, using only recycled materials and solar energy. It's not perfect yet, but it works." Martha's fatigue momentarily gave way to awe. She had witnessed Lily's creations before, but this one seemed different, more purposeful. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. But what made you think of this?" Lily's eyes, bright with intelligence, seemed to dim slightly. "I was watching the news with Mrs. Henderson next door. They were talking about people in rural areas who can't get clean water, and I thought maybe I could help." Martha's heart swelled. Despite everything Lily had been through, her first instinct was always to help others. Rusty nudged his head under Lily's hand, as if sensing her moment of reflection, and she absently scratched behind his ears. "Mrs. Cooper says our school has been invited to a science fair," Lily continued, referring to her science teacher. "It's at Westfield Academy. Students from all over the county will be there." Martha hesitated. Westfield Academy was the most prestigious school in the area, catering to children from families like the Prestons, who practically owned half the town. The thought of her granddaughter entering that world of privilege made her nervous. That's great news, Lily. But those kids, they have resources we can't even imagine. Their projects will be—" "I know," Lily interrupted, her voice steady, "but Mrs. Cooper thinks my water purifier has a chance. She says it's innovative and practical, and I've been working on it for months already, so I'm ahead of schedule." Martha couldn't help but smile at her granddaughter's determination. "Well then, if Mrs. Cooper believes in you, who am I to doubt? Just be prepared, okay? Not everyone will see your worth right away." The next morning at school, Lily approached Mrs. Cooper with questions about the science fair. The teacher, a woman in her 50s who had recognized Lily's potential early on, provided her with all the details. "The fair is sponsored by Tech Future, and there will be university professors, investors and local business leaders present," Mrs. Cooper explained. The theme is sustainable solutions for real problems. Your water purifier is perfect, Lily. Just make sure to document your process thoroughly. Over the next few weeks, Lily threw herself into refining her project. After school and on weekends, she worked tirelessly making adjustments, running tests, and improving the design. Rusty was always by her side, sometimes fetching drop tools, other times simply providing silent companionship as she worked deep into the night. Martha watched with a mixture of pride and concern. She knew that Lily was exceptionally gifted, but she also recognized the harsh realities of the world. Talent alone wasn't always enough to overcome the barriers of class and privilege. One evening, as Lily was making final adjustments to her project, there was a knock at the door. Martha opened it to find Mrs. Cooper standing there, an unusual occurrence that immediately raised her concerns. "Is everything okay?" Martha asked, inviting the teacher in. "More than okay," Mrs. Cooper replied with a smile. "I wanted to speak with you both about something important." She glanced at Lily, who had emerged from her room with curious eyes. "I've been in touch with Dr. Robert Hayes, who will be one of the judges at the science fair. He's a renowned expert in sustainable solutions who has worked in regions affected by water scarcity. When I described Lily's project to him, he expressed particular interest." Lily's eyes widened. "Dr. Hayes, I've read his papers online. His work in developing filtration systems for disaster-affected areas is amazing." Mrs. Cooper nodded, not surprised by Lily's awareness. "He's particularly interested in solutions that can be implemented with locally available materials. If your presentation impresses him, it could open doors you can't even imagine, Lily." That night, after Mrs. Cooper left, Lily couldn't sleep. She sat on the porch steps with Rusty, staring at the distant lights of Hillcrest. For the first time, the glittering mansions didn't seem so unreachable. "What do you think, Rusty? Do we have a chance?" she whispered, running her fingers through his fur. Rusty tilted his head and let out a soft whine as if to say, "Of course we do." As the science fair approached, Lily faced a new challenge. The project needed to be transported to Westfield Academy, and it wasn't something she could simply carry on the bus. Martha couldn't take time off work, and they didn't own a car. Just when it seemed they'd have to find a way to disassemble and reassemble the entire project, Mrs. Cooper came through again. "I'll drive you," she offered, "and I've arranged for you to set up your display the evening before, so you'll have plenty of time to make sure everything is working properly." The evening before the fair, Lily, Martha, and Rusty accompanied Mrs. Cooper to Westfield Academy. The sprawling campus, with its manicured lawns and modern architecture, stood in stark contrast to the practical simplicity of Oak Ridge Public Elementary. Inside the gymnasium, where the fair would be held, displays were already being set up. Most were elaborate constructions with digital panels, professional-grade materials, and sleek designs. Lily's project, though ingenious, looked decidedly homemade in comparison. As they worked to set up her display, a group of students and parents from Westfield entered the gym. Among them was Victoria Preston, whose husband's tech company was one of the main sponsors of the fair. Her son, Ethan, was a student at Westfield and a perennial winner in these events. Victoria's gaze swept across the room and paused when it reached Lily and her modest display. Her perfectly manicured eyebrow arched in what could only be described as disdain. She whispered something to her companion, and both women glanced at Lily before laughing behind their hands. Lily pretended not to notice, but Martha saw the brief flash of hurt in her granddaughter's eyes. Before she could say anything, Rusty, who had been quietly lying under the table, stood up and placed himself protectively between Lily and the onlookers. "Maybe we shouldn't have brought him," Martha whispered, concerned that the dog's presence might draw even more unwanted attention. But Lily shook her head firmly. "No, I need him here. He's part of this. He helped me find half the materials I used." She knelt down and hugged Rusty tightly. "We're in this together, all of us." As they finished setting up, Mrs. Cooper approached with a reassuring smile. "Everything looks perfect, Lily. Just remember, tomorrow isn't about having the fanciest display. It's about having the best idea." Lily nodded, trying to believe those words as she took one last look at her project before leaving. Tomorrow would be the day that could change everything, for better or worse. The morning of the science fair dawned bright and clear. Lily had barely slept, her mind racing with last-minute improvements and concerns about her presentation. She ran through her explanation again and again, muttering under her breath as she got dressed in her nicest clothes, a simple blue dress and a cardigan that Martha had saved for special occasions. "You look beautiful," Martha said, adjusting the collar of the cardigan. Her eyes glistened with a mixture of pride and anxiety. "Do you think they'll listen to me, Grandma?" Lily asked, her voice small. "What if they just see my clothes or Rusty and decide I don't belong there?" Martha knelt down to meet her granddaughter's eyes. "Listen to me, Lily Thompson. Your mind is a gift that has nothing to do with fancy clothes or what others think. Those who matter will see that. The rest?" She shrugged. "The rest don't matter." Rusty, sensing the importance of the day, was unusually subdued, staying close to Lily's side as they waited for Mrs. Cooper to pick them up. When the teacher arrived, she brought an unexpected surprise, a small cart she had borrowed from the school's custodian. "For your project," she explained. "This way you can move it easily once we get there." The gymnasium at Westfield Academy had been transformed overnight. What had been a cavernous space with scattered displays was now a bustling exposition. Banners announcing Future Innovators Science Fair hung from the ceiling, and professional lighting illuminated each display area. Judges in formal attire moved from station to station, clipboards in hand, while parents and guests mingled in the background. As Lily, Martha, and Rusty entered with Mrs. Cooper, they immediately felt out of place. The other presenters were dressed in what appeared to be designer clothing, and their displays had been further enhanced overnight with professional signage and tech enhancements. "Remember why we're here," Mrs. Cooper murmured, noticing Lily's faltering confidence. "Your project speaks for itself." They made their way to Lily's designated space. To her relief, her display was untouched, the water purifier still functioning exactly as she had left it. She set up the cart beside the table, placing Rusty's leash around her wrist as Martha helped arrange her presentation materials. Nearby, Victoria Preston was supervising the final touches on her son Ethan's display. A sleek digital interface, showcasing what appeared to be a sophisticated climate modeling system. The display included multiple screens, interactive elements, and a professionally printed backdrop detailing the project's importance. "Mom, stop fussing," Ethan muttered, looking uncomfortable as Victoria adjusted his tie. He was a tall, lanky boy with thoughtful eyes that seemed at odds with his mother's aggressive perfectionism. "The Montgomery Scholarship Committee is here, Ethan. Everything must be perfect," Victoria insisted, before glancing over at Lily's station. Her eyes narrowed at the sight of Rusty, now settled under Lily's table. "Is that a dog? At a science fair? This isn't a petting zoo," she remarked loudly to another parent. Martha stiffened, but Mrs. Cooper placed a restraining hand on her arm. "Not worth it," she whispered. "Let Lily's work do the talking." The judging began at precisely 10 o'clock. Teams of judges moved methodically through the rows of displays, spending approximately 15 minutes with each student. Lily watched nervously as they approached her section, noticing that one of them, a tall man with wire-rimmed glasses and a thoughtful expression, was taking particularly detailed notes. When they finally reached her station, Lily took a deep breath and began her presentation. She explained how her system worked, demonstrating how rainwater entered the collection chamber, passed through multiple filtration layers made entirely of recycled materials, and emerged clean enough for household use. She detailed the cost-effectiveness, the adaptability for different environments, and the potential impact on communities with limited access to clean water. The entire system costs less than $20 to build, she concluded, and uses materials that can be found almost anywhere. Plastic bottles, sand, charcoal, even cotton from old t-shirts. The judges nodded, taking notes, asking questions that Lily answered with growing confidence. The man with the wire-rimmed glasses, who Lily now realized must be Dr. Hayes, seemed particularly interested in the scalability of her design. Have you considered how this might be adapted for a community of, say, 500 people? He asked. Lily nodded eagerly. I've done calculations for scaled versions using larger collection surfaces and parallel filtration units. The principles remain the same, but the capacity increases proportionally. She reached into her folder and withdrew several sheets of paper covered in neat diagrams and mathematical formulas. Dr. Hayes raised his eyebrows, clearly impressed by the thoroughness of her work. The other judges exchanged glances, and Lily felt a flutter of hope in her chest. As the judging team moved on to the next display, Lily exhaled slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and lingering tension. She had done her best. Now all she could do was wait. During the lunch break, participants and guests mingled in the cafeteria, which had been transformed with white tablecloths and catered food. Lily, Martha, and Mrs. Cooper found a quiet corner table, sharing the packed lunch they had brought. Rusty lay at Lily's feet, occasionally receiving a small morsel from her hand. Across the room, Victoria Preston held court at a central table, surrounded by school board members and corporate sponsors. Her voice carried across the space, confident and commanding. Of course, Ethan's climate model has already attracted interest from Stanford's Environmental Science Department. They've suggested he might consider early admission to their summer program. Nearby, Ethan picked at his food, seeming more interested in the book beside his plate than in his mother's networking efforts. As lunch concluded, an announcement came over the speaker system. All participants, please return to your stations. The judges will be conducting final reviews before deliberation. Back at her display, Lily noticed with alarm that something had changed. The water in her collection chamber was discolored, and the flow had slowed significantly. She frantically checked the connections, discovering that someone had tampered with the filter alignment. But who would? She began, then stopped as she caught sight of Victoria Preston's satisfied smirk as she walked past with one of the judges. With shaking hands, Lily quickly recalibrated the system. But the damage was done. The water emerging from the output pipe was cloudy, not clear as it had been during her presentation. It's supposed to be clear, she explained desperately to a judge who had returned to observe. Someone must have... Excuses don't reflect. Well on a scientist, Victoria commented as she paused nearby. Perhaps your design isn't as reliable as you claimed. Martha, who had returned from taking Rusty for a short walk, bristled at the comment. My granddaughter doesn't make excuses, and she doesn't need to. Her work speaks for itself. Victoria's expression hardened. Does it? Because from where I stand, I see a failed experiment and a stray dog at what's supposed to be a prestigious academic event. Really, they'll let anyone in these days. Her voice was deliberately loud, carrying to nearby displays where other students and parents turned to watch. Lily felt her cheeks burn with humiliation as snickers echoed from a group of Westfield students. Rusty, sensing her distress, pressed closer to her legs, looking up with concerned eyes. Mrs. Preston, Mrs. Cooper began, stepping forward with uncharacteristic anger, but she was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Hayes. Is there a problem here? He asked, his calm voice cutting through the tension. Victoria's demeanor shifted instantly into polite deference. Not at all, Dr. Hayes. Just observing the various entries. Dr. Hayes nodded, then turned his full attention to Lily's display. I noticed your filtration system has been compromised, he said directly to Lily. Would you mind walking me through how you would address this malfunction in a real-world scenario? Grateful for the opportunity, Lily quickly explained the troubleshooting process, demonstrating how the system could be reset and restarted without specialized tools or expertise. As she worked, the water began to clear again, the filter performing exactly as designed. Remarkable resilience in the design, Dr. Hayes commented, making notes. Adaptability to unexpected complications is a crucial factor in field applications. He turned to Victoria, whose smug expression had faded. Mrs. Preston, I believe your son's climate model is most impressive as well. Though I admit I'm particularly interested in solutions that can be implemented immediately in regions with pressing needs. As Dr. Hayes moved on, Victoria's face flushed with barely contained anger. She glared at Lily before striding away, her heels clicking aggressively on the polished floor. Don't let her get to you, Martha whispered, squeezing Lily's shoulder. That man saw right through her. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of nervous anticipation. Judges continued their rounds, visitors examined displays, and participants answered questions from curious onlookers. Throughout it all, Lily remained at her station, patiently explaining her project to anyone who showed interest, which, after Dr. Hayes's visible approval, was a surprising number of people. As the clock struck 4, the gymnasium fell silent as the head judge took the stage. We will now announce the recipients of this year's awards and scholarships. Please hold your applause until all announcements have been made. Lily held her breath, trying not to hope too much. Martha squeezed her hand, and Rusty pressed against her legs as if lending his strength. The Montgomery Innovation Scholarship, our highest honor, recognizing exceptional creativity and real-world application, goes to... The pause seemed to stretch for an eternity. Lily Thompson, Oak Ridge Public Elementary, for her sustainable water purification system. The gymnasium erupted in applause, not the polite, restrained kind, but genuine, enthusiastic recognition. Lily stood frozen in shock as Mrs. Cooper gently urged her toward the stage. As she made her way forward, she was acutely aware of Victoria Preston's thunderous expression and, more surprisingly, Ethan's genuine smile and nod of acknowledgement. On stage, accepting the certificate and the scholarship check that would change her educational future, Lily finally allowed herself to believe that her grandmother had been right. All along, those who truly mattered would see beyond appearances and recognize her worth. And standing at the edge of the stage, watching with unabashed pride, were the two beings who had believed in her from the start. Martha and Rusty, her unlikely but unwavering support system in a world that had often seemed determined to overlook her. The days following the science fair passed in a whirlwind of activity. Lily's unexpected victory had turned her into something of a local celebrity in Oak Ridge. The local newspaper ran a front-page story with a picture of her, Martha, and Rusty standing proudly beside the water purification system. Mrs. Cooper had framed a copy and hung it in her classroom, pointing it out to every class as an example of what determination could achieve. But not everyone was celebrating Lily's success. Victoria Preston had left the science fair in a fury, dragging a reluctant Ethan behind her. Rumors circulated through Westfield Academy that she had demanded an investigation into the judging process, claiming that emotional appeal had trumped scientific merit. Her complaints found little sympathy, however, particularly after Dr. Hayes publicly praised Lily's work in his keynote address at a sustainability conference the following week. A 12-year-old girl from Oak Ridge has designed a water purification system that could transform access to clean water in developing regions, he had said. Using nothing but recycled materials and solar energy, she has created something that engineers with advanced degrees and million-dollar budgets have struggled to achieve. This is the kind of innovative thinking we need to solve our most pressing global challenges. What neither Lily nor Martha realized was that someone had recorded Victoria's public humiliation of Lily at the science fair and the subsequent intervention by Dr. Hayes. Jessica Martinez, a junior at Westfield Academy working as a student photographer for the event, had captured the entire exchange on her phone. Disturbed by Victoria's behavior and inspired by Lily's dignity, she had uploaded the video to her social media accounts with the caption, "Watch how this girl from Oak Ridge was treated at our science fair and how she proved everyone wrong. Respect doesn't require wealth, just future innovator." The video went viral almost immediately. By Monday morning, it had been viewed over 200,000 times and shared across multiple platforms. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a classic underdog narrative. The gifted girl from the wrong side of town, accompanied by her loyal dog, facing down privilege and prejudice. Lily first learned about the video when she arrived at school to find her classmates treating her with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Her friend Emma rushed up to her in the hallway, her eyes wide with excitement. "Lily, you're famous. Have you seen the video? It's everywhere." Confusion crossed Lily's face. "What video?" Emma pulled out her phone and showed Lily the footage. Watching it was a surreal experience. Lily saw herself as others had seen her, small but determined, standing beside her project while Victoria's cutting remarks echoed through the gymnasium. She watched Dr. Hayes' intervention, the revelation of her innovation's potential, and her ultimate triumph. "I didn't know anyone was filming that," Lily whispered, a knot forming in her stomach. While the video portrayed her in a sympathetic light, she couldn't help but worry about the backlash. Her concerns proved well-founded. By lunchtime, the school principal, Mr. Wilson, called her to his office, where Martha was already waiting, her face tense with worry. "Mrs. Thompson, Lily," Mr. Wilson began, "I've asked you here because we've been receiving an unusual number of calls from media outlets, educational foundations, and," he hesitated, "from lawyers representing the Preston family." Martha straightened in her chair. "Lawyers? What possible complaint could they have?" Mr. Wilson sighed. "Mrs. Preston is alleging defamation and invasion of privacy. She claims the video was edited to portray her in a negative light and is demanding it be taken down." "But the video shows exactly what happened," Lily protested, "and I didn't even know someone was recording it." "I understand, Lily, and to be clear, you're not in any trouble. The school district's legal counsel has already advised that since you weren't responsible for creating or sharing the video, the Preston's threats are legally baseless." He leaned forward, his expression softening. "But there's something else you should know. We've received an inquiry from Global Solutions Initiative. They're interested in your water purification system for their projects in water-scarce regions." Martha gasped. "Global Solutions, the international organization?" Mr. Wilson nodded. "Their representative mentioned that Dr. Hayes brought your project to their attention. They'd like to meet with Lily to discuss potential development and implementation." That evening, as Lily sat on the porch with Rusty, trying to process everything that had happened, a sleek black car pulled up in front of their modest home. Rusty's ears perked up, and he let out a low, cautious growl as the car door opened. To Lily's astonishment, Ethan Preston stepped out, looking uncomfortable in the fading light of dusk. He approached the porch hesitantly, stopping at the bottom of the steps when Rusty stood protectively in front of Lily. "Hi," he said awkwardly. I hope it's okay that I came by. I found your address in the school directory." Lily remained silent, her confusion evident. Martha appeared in the doorway behind her, eyeing their unexpected visitor with suspicion. "I wanted to apologize," Ethan continued, his voice gaining confidence, "for what my mother said at the fair and for what she's doing now with the lawyers. And everything, it's not right. And I told her so, but she doesn't listen to me." He paused, then added, "Your project was amazing. You deserve to win." The admission hung in the air between them. Martha moved to stand beside Lily, her hand resting protectively on her granddaughter's shoulder. "Thank you for saying that," Lily finally responded. "But why are you really here? Won't your mother be angry?" A bitter smile crossed Ethan's face. "She's always angry about something, but actually, she doesn't know I'm here. I came because—" He hesitated, then reached into his backpack and withdrew a thick folder. "I think you should see this." Curious despite her wariness, Lily descended the steps and took the folder from him, Rusty following close behind. Inside were printouts of emails, design documents, and photographs that appeared to be related to previous science fair projects, including Ethan's climate model. "I didn't design that climate model," Ethan confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "My mother hired a graduate student from Stanford to develop it for me. She's been doing that for years, paying professionals to create my projects, coaching me on what to say to the judges. Last year's project was plagiarized from a research paper that hadn't been published in English yet. She thought no one would notice." Martha gasped, but Lily's expression remained thoughtful as she flipped through the documents, quickly grasping their significance. "Why are you telling us this?" she asked, looking up at Ethan with newfound intensity. "Because I'm tired of living a lie," he replied, meeting her gaze. "And because what she's doing to you now, the lawyers, the threats, it's all to keep her own deception from coming to light. She's afraid that if your story gets too much attention, someone might start looking more closely at my projects." The revelation cast Victoria's behavior in an entirely new light. It wasn't just snobbery or disappointment driving her actions. It was fear of exposure. "What do you want me to do with this information?" Lily asked, suddenly feeling the weight of a decision far beyond her years. Ethan shook his head. "I don't know, I just thought you should know what you're up against," and he hesitated. "I thought maybe we could work together. For real, I mean. I'm actually interested in environmental science, but I've never had the chance to do my own work." Before Lily could respond, the sound of another car approaching drew their attention. This time it was Mrs. Cooper, accompanied by a man Lily recognized as Dr. Hayes. "Lily," Mrs. Cooper called out, looking surprised to see Ethan there. "We have news that couldn't wait. Dr. Hayes has a proposal for you." As they gathered in the small living room, an unlikely assembly of people from different worlds, Dr. Hayes explained that Global Solutions Initiative was offering Lily a place in their Young Innovators program. It would include mentorship, resources to develop her project further, and eventually the opportunity to see her water purification system implemented in communities around the world. It would mean traveling to their headquarters in San Francisco for the summer program, Dr. Hayes explained. "All expenses paid, of course, but the decision must be made quickly." Martha's expression was a complex mixture of pride and concern. San Francisco? That's so far away. She's only 12. "The program includes accommodation for a guardian," Dr. Hayes assured her. "And your dog," he added with a smile, noticing Rusty's attentive presence at Lily's feet. Lily's mind raced with possibilities and concerns. She turned to Ethan, who had remained silent during the explanation. "Would you be interested in something like this, working on real projects that could help people?" Ethan's eyes widened. "Of course, but I don't have your talent." "But you have knowledge and resources I don't have," Lily countered. She turned to Dr. Hayes. "Could the program consider another student? Someone I could collaborate with?" Dr. Hayes looked taken aback. "I suppose it's possible, but..." "This is Ethan Preston," Lily introduced, causing both Mrs. Cooper and Dr. Hayes to stare in surprise. "And he just showed me something important." She handed the folder to Dr. Hayes, who scanned its contents with growing concern. "I see," he said finally, his expression grave. "This is troubling." "I don't want to get anyone in trouble," Lily clarified quickly. "But Ethan has real skills and interests that have been overlooked. I think we could work well together." The tension in the room was palpable as Dr. Hayes considered the situation. Finally, he spoke. "The Young Innovators Program values integrity as much as innovation. Mr. Preston, your honesty today speaks volumes about your character. I would be willing to advocate for your inclusion in the program on the condition that all future work is genuinely your own." Relief and gratitude washed over Ethan's face. "I promise. That's all I've ever wanted." As the discussion continued, into the evening, developing plans and possibilities, Lily felt a sense of transformation that went beyond winning a science fair or being offered an opportunity. She had stepped into a larger world where her ideas mattered, where honesty and innovation were valued above privilege and appearance. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to those gathered in the Thompson living room, the video of the science fair confrontation continued to spread. By midnight, it had reached news outlets nationwide and inspired a broader conversation about educational equity, opportunity gaps, and the untapped potential of students from under-resourced communities. Hashtags like Osan Lily Effect and Sa Innovation Has No Zip Code began trending, bringing attention not just to Lily's story, but to similar stories across the country. Victoria Preston, monitoring the situation from her Hillcrest mansion, watched with growing alarm as her carefully constructed reputation unraveled in real time. Her phone buzzed incessantly with messages from friends, acquaintances, and eventually the Westfield Academy Board of Trustees, who were deeply concerned about the allegations and requested an urgent meeting to discuss the matter. When Ethan didn't return home that evening, choosing instead to stay with a friend rather than face his mother's wrath, Victoria reached a decision. She would have to change tactics. Fighting against Lily Thompson was clearly backfiring. Perhaps it was time to find a way to align herself with this unexpected phenomenon, to transform from villain to visionary supporter. As dawn broke over Oakridge, Lily sat on the porch with Rusty, watching the sunrise and contemplating the choices before her. The dog rested his head on her lap, his steady presence a reminder that amidst all the changes swirling around them, some things remained constant. Loyalty, integrity, and the bonds of love that had sustained her through challenges far greater than those she now faced. What she couldn't know was that Victoria Preston was already crafting a new narrative, one in which she would position herself as a champion for underprivileged students, with Lily as the centerpiece of her redemption story. The confrontation at the science fair had been merely the first act in a drama that was still unfolding, with revelations and reversals yet to come that would test Lily's resilience in ways the bright morning light could not yet reveal. The Thompson household phone rang early the next morning. Martha, already dressed for her shift at the hospital, answered with caution, half expecting more media inquiries. Instead, she found herself speaking to Barbara Westfield, the chairwoman of Westfield Academy's Board of Trustees. "Mrs. Thompson, I hope I haven't called too early," Barbara began, her tone carefully measured. "I'm calling to personally invite you and Lily to attend an emergency board meeting this afternoon. The situation with Victoria Preston and her son has prompted some serious concerns that we'd like to address." Martha glanced at Lily, who was at the kitchen table reviewing Dr. Hayes's program materials, Rusty dozing at her feet. "I appreciate the invitation, Mrs. Westfield, but I have to work, and I'm not sure putting Lily in the same room as Mrs. Preston is a good idea." Victoria won't be there, at least not initially," Barbara clarified. "We've asked her to come in separately, and we can arrange for the meeting to be held after your shift ends. This is important, Mrs. Thompson. It's about more than just one incident." Martha sighed, covering the mouthpiece to whisper to Lily, "What do you think, sweetheart? Do you want to go to Westfield for a meeting?" Lily hesitated, stroking Rusty's fur as she considered. The dog lifted his head, seeming to sense the weight of the decision. "I think we should go," she finally said. "If they're willing to listen now, that's important." After some negotiation, Martha agreed to attend at 5 o'clock after her shift ended. Throughout her workday at the hospital, Martha found her thoughts drifting to the meeting ahead. What could the board possibly want? Was this another elaborate scheme to silence them, or could it be something more promising? That afternoon, she, Lily, and Rusty, accompanied by Mrs. Cooper, who had insisted on coming for moral support, made their way to Westfield Academy's imposing administration building. The structure loomed like a cathedral of privilege, all limestone columns and ivy-covered brick, a stark contrast to the utilitarian design of Oak Ridge Public Elementary. They were ushered into a conference room where 7 board members sat around a polished mahogany table. The room smelled of lemon polish and old books, with walls lined with portraits of distinguished alumni and benefactors, none of whom resembled Lily or her grandmother. Barbara Westfield, a distinguished woman in her 60s with silver hair and piercing blue eyes, welcomed them warmly. "Thank you for coming. We've spent the morning reviewing some disturbing information, and we wanted to speak with you directly before taking further action." On the table lay printouts of the documents Ethan had provided, along with additional materials the board had gathered, emails, contracts, bank statements, and what appeared to be professional evaluations of previous science fair projects. "What exactly are we looking at here?" Martha asked, eyeing the papers warily. Barbara explained that an emergency investigation had uncovered a pattern of fraudulent entries in science competitions stretching back 3 years, all connected to Ethan Preston and orchestrated by Victoria. The evidence was damning. Payments to graduate students, non-disclosure agreements, and even threatening emails to anyone who questioned the authenticity of Ethan's work. "We've also discovered that Victoria has used her influence to suppress other talented students whose work might have overshadowed her son's," Barbara continued, her voice tight with controlled anger, "including several from Oak Ridge who were mysteriously disqualified from previous competitions for rule violations that, in retrospect, appear to have been fabricated." A board member, a retired judge with a reputation for fairness, slid forward. A folder containing profiles of 4 students who had been disqualified from competitions over the past 2 years. All were from public schools, all showed exceptional promise, and all had developed projects that competed directly with Ethan's. Martha's grip on Lily's shoulder tightened. "I'm sorry to hear that, but why tell us? What does this have to do with Lily?" Barbara exchanged glances with her colleagues before responding. "Because we'd like to make amends. Westfield Academy was founded on principles of academic excellence and integrity. What happened at the science fair, and apparently many times before, violated those principles. We're implementing immediate changes to ensure all competitions are judged fairly." "Give me changes like what?" Mrs. Cooper asked, skepticism evident in her voice. "Anonymous judging protocols for initial evaluations," Barbara replied. "External ethics oversight, mandatory disclosures of conflicts of interest, and most importantly, a complete restructuring of how we recruit participants from all schools in the district." A silver-haired man at the end of the table leaned forward. "We'd also like to offer Lily a full scholarship to Westfield beginning next semester." The offer hung in the air, unexpected and life-changing. Lily looked up at her grandmother, questions in her eyes. "That's very generous," Martha said carefully. "But Lily has just accepted a position with the Young Innovators Program. And frankly, after what we've experienced, I'm not sure Westfield is the right environment for her." Rusty, sensing the tension, pressed closer to Lily's legs. She found comfort in his warm presence, a reminder of home and authenticity in this unfamiliar setting. Barbara nodded understandingly. "The scholarship offer stands regardless of your decision about the program. And as for the environment, that's precisely what we intend to change. Which brings us to the other reason we asked you here today." She explained that the board was proposing a new partnership program between Westfield Academy and Oak Ridge Public Schools, focused on STEM education. It would include shared resources, collaborative projects, and exchange opportunities for students from both schools. The initiative would be funded by a substantial reallocation of Westfield's endowment, previously earmarked for campus improvements. "We'd like Lily to be part of the advisory committee for this initiative," Barbara concluded. "Her perspective would be invaluable, not as a token representative, but as someone who genuinely understands what's needed to bridge these two worlds." Mrs. Cooper leaned forward, her teacher's instincts engaged. "And what happens when the media attention dies down? When the viral video is forgotten and things return to normal? Will these changes remain, or will they quietly disappear?" It was the retired judge who answered, his deep voice carrying the weight of decades making consequential decisions. "That's precisely why we need structural changes, not just public relations gestures, and why we need people like Lily involved for the long term." Before Martha could respond, the conference room door opened and Victoria Preston walked in. The room fell silent as she stood in the doorway, impeccably dressed in a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Martha earned in a month. Her posture was as perfect as ever, but there was a strained quality to her expression that betrayed her discomfort. "Mrs. Preston," Barbara acknowledged coldly, "you're early for your appointment." Victoria's gaze moved from Barbara to Lily and Martha, and an unmistakable flash of recognition and calculation crossed her face. "Actually, my timing is perfect. I've come to make amends." What followed was a masterclass in calculated contrition. Victoria spoke eloquently about her regrettable behavior at the science fair, attributing it to maternal blindness and unconscious bias that she was now working hard to overcome. Her voice carried just the right tremor of emotion, her gestures precisely calibrated to convey remorse without admission of specific wrongdoing. She announced her intention to establish a foundation supporting young innovators from underprivileged backgrounds, with Lily as its first beneficiary. The foundation would offer mentorship, resources, and connections to the kind of opportunities that had previously been reserved for students from privileged backgrounds. "I've seen the error of my ways," Victoria declared, her voice trembling, with what might have passed for emotion to those who didn't know better. "And I want to be part of the solution. Sometimes it takes a profound mistake to catalyze meaningful growth." Martha and Lily exchanged skeptical glances. Rusty, who had been quietly lying under Lily's chair, let out a low, dubious whine that perfectly captured the mood of the room. Several board members struggled to suppress smiles at the dog's timing. Barbara Westfield's expression remained professionally neutral, but her tone carried an edge of steel. "That's a commendable sentiment, Victoria. However, given the evidence before us regarding your son's projects, the board has some serious questions about your commitment to academic integrity." Victoria's facade cracked slightly. "Evidence? What evidence?" Barbara gestured to the documents on the table. "Your son has provided a full statement, Victoria, as have several of the consultants you hired to complete his projects." The color drained from Victoria's face. Her gaze darted to Lily, a flash of accusation in her eyes. "Don't look at me," Lily said quietly. "Ethan made his own decision to tell the truth." Victoria's expression hardened. Then, with visible effort, she composed herself. Her eyes took on a calculating gleam that Lily recognized from the science fair, the look of someone quickly devising a new strategy. I see. Well, I suppose we all have our reckonings. Mine has certainly arrived. She straightened her shoulders. Nevertheless, my offer stands. The Foundation will proceed with or without Westfield's blessing. After all, genuine change can come from unexpected places, as Lily has so admirably demonstrated. Martha's expression tightened. My granddaughter isn't a prop for your redemption narrative, Mrs. Preston. Of course not, Victoria replied smoothly. She's an inspiration, and inspirations deserve support, don't they? She turned to Lily directly. Think about it, dear. With your talent and my connections, we could help hundreds of students like you. Before Lily could respond, Barbara intervened. We'll continue this discussion in my office, Victoria. Lily and her grandmother need time to consider the board's proposals without pressure. After Victoria was escorted from the room, Barbara turned back to Lily and Martha. I apologize for that unexpected encounter. Rest assured, we'll be addressing Mrs. Preston's actions formally. Her position on several influential committees is now under review, and there will be legal consequences for the academic fraud. The meeting concluded with no immediate decisions made. Lily and Martha promised to consider the scholarship offer and the advisory committee position, while Barbara provided details about the new partnership program scheduled to launch in the fall. As they left the building, Lily spotted Ethan waiting nervously under a maple tree in the courtyard. He looked different somehow. His designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a t-shirt, his hair no longer perfectly styled. He approached as they descended the steps, stopping a respectful distance away when Rusty eyed him warily. How did it go? Ethan asked, his voice uncertain. Your mother showed up, Lily replied, watching his face fall. She's starting a foundation for underprivileged young innovators, with me as the first beneficiary. Ethan groaned. Classic. Mum, when she can't beat something, she tries to own it. He hesitated, then asked, Are you going to accept? Lily shook her head. I don't need her help or her money, and neither do you, by the way. Dr. Hayes called this morning. Global Solutions officially invited both of us to the Young Innovators program. A genuine smile spread across Ethan's face, perhaps the first real one in years. Really? Even after everything with my mother? Especially after everything with your mother, Lily confirmed. Dr. Hayes said standing up to her showed exactly the kind of character they value. Plus, she added with a small smile, you actually know a lot about climate science. Your notes helped me refine my water collection system. Those were the only parts that were really mine, Ethan admitted. I used to sneak into my father's study and read his environmental journals before he left. Martha, who had been watching the exchange with interest, stepped forward. Would you like to join us for dinner, Ethan? Nothing fancy, just pizza. And conversation. The invitation clearly surprised him. I'd like that. Thank you. As they walked toward Martha's car, Lily felt a strange sense of worlds colliding. The wealthy, pressured boy from Hillcrest finding common ground with the girl from Oak Ridge who had never had the luxury of taking anything for granted. Rusty, initially suspicious of Ethan, gradually relaxed, eventually allowing the boy to scratch behind his ears. He doesn't usually warm up to people this quickly, Lily observed. Maybe he knows I could use a friend right now, Ethan replied, quietly. As the weeks passed, the ripples from the science fair incident continued to spread. Westfield Academy implemented comprehensive reforms to ensure fair competition and introduced new programs focused on accessibility and diversity. The planned partnership with Oak Ridge Public Schools expanded to include 5 other public schools in the district. Victoria Preston, facing potential legal consequences for academic fraud, withdrew from public life. The promised foundation never materialized. But ironically, her actions had sparked a genuine movement to identify and support talented students from under-resourced communities. The Lily Effect became a rallying cry for educational equity, with donors and organizations around the country establishing scholarships and mentorship programs. Ethan, freed from his mother's suffocating expectations, flourished in the Young Innovators Program alongside Lily. Their collaborative work on integrating climate monitoring into water purification systems showed remarkable promise, earning recognition from environmental scientists around the world. More importantly, he developed genuine friendships with Lily, with other participants in the program, and eventually with students from Oak Ridge who had once viewed anyone from Westfield with suspicion. As for Lily, she ultimately declined the Westfield Scholarship, choosing instead to remain at Oak Ridge while participating in advanced programs at both schools. Her decision surprised many, but as she explained to Martha, "I don't want to leave where I came from. I want to build bridges between these worlds." And bridges were indeed being built. The viral video that had exposed Victoria's behavior became a case study in privilege and prejudice, used in ethics classes and diversity training programs. But more importantly, it sparked conversations in living rooms and classrooms across the country about what true merit looks like and how talent can be found in unexpected places. 1 year after the science fair, Lily stood on a different stage, this time at a global sustainability conference in San Francisco. Behind her, a large screen displayed real-time data from pilot installations of her water purification system in 3 countries. Beside her stood Ethan, now a trusted friend and collaborator, and Dr. Hayes, their mentor, and at her feet, wearing a specially made conference badge on his collar, lay Rusty, the faithful companion who had witnessed every step of her journey. The solution to our most pressing environmental challenges won't come from expensive laboratories or exclusive institutions alone, Lily told the audience of scientists, engineers, and policymakers. They'll come from people who experience these problems firsthand, who understand the constraints of limited resources, and who see possibilities where others see only obstacles. In the front row, Martha wiped away tears of pride. Beside her sat Mrs. Cooper, who had been instrumental in expanding the partnership between Westfield and Oak Ridge into a district-wide initiative. Even Barbara Westfield was there, having become an unexpected ally in Lily's mission to transform how talent was recognized and nurtured. After the conference, as they walked along the San Francisco waterfront, Martha reflected on how much had changed in a single year. "I always knew you were special, Lily," she said, watching her granddaughter throw a stick for Rusty to chase, "but I never imagined all this." Lily smiled, her eyes on the horizon where the setting sun turned the ocean to gold. "Neither did I, but now I can imagine so much more." She turned to face her grandmother, her expression thoughtful. "You know what the best part is? It's not the awards or the recognition. It's knowing that somewhere there's another kid like me watching what happened and realizing that they don't have to accept the limits other people try to put on them." As if to emphasize her point, Rusty returned with the stick, tail wagging expectantly. Lily took it from him with a laugh, then hesitated before throwing it again. "What do you think, Rusty? Should we go even further this time?" The dog barked, enthusiastically, eyes fixed on the stick in her hand, ready for whatever challenge came next. "I'll take that as a yes," Lily said, and with all her strength, she threw the stick toward the future they were building together. One where talent and determination mattered more than zip codes or bank accounts, and where the most innovative solutions came from seeing beyond appearances to the true potential that lay within. Across the country, in classrooms and community centers, on tablets and smartphones, thousands of young people were drawing inspiration from Lily's story. They looked at their own recycled materials, their own overlooked communities, their own loyal companions, whether furry or human, and began to see possibilities they had never before imagined. And in that moment, though she couldn't possibly Know it, Lily Thompson had created something far more powerful than a water purification system. She had created hope that flowed as purely and unstoppably as the water from her ingenious device, nourishing dreams that would grow into innovations yet to be conceived by minds, yet to be recognized. Dear listeners, we hope that Lily and Rusty's journey has touched your hearts as deeply as it has touched ours. This story reminds us that true talent knows no boundaries, and that sometimes our most loyal companions are the ones who help us discover our greatest strengths. For more emotionally powerful stories that explore the complexities of life and the triumph of the human spirit, we've prepared a special playlist you can find by clicking on the link to your left. If you enjoyed this tale of determination and unexpected friendship, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Every day, we bring you unique stories that remind us of our shared humanity and the potential that lies within each of us. What was your favorite moment from Lily's journey? Was it her triumph at the science fair, her generous collaboration with Ethan, or perhaps her special bond with Rusty? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.